All right, it's Real Talk, Episode 2, Season 1, Chapter 3. Welcome to Real Talk, where we talk about real shit in the keyboard community, in the keyboard hobby, all that good stuff. Now, today's episode of Real Talk is a fairly simple one, and it follows the logic of how to identify passion projects versus cash grabs. And what each of those really means. So anyway, let's roll the intro, or my dumb intro, and I'll see you in a sec. Alrighty, so you guys know my Real Talk series. I mean, it's still relatively new, but it's wildly unscripted, and it's just us sitting down in a different location and just talking. So let's talk. So there's a particular ideology or a particular level of understanding that I'm trying to get you guys to all see. And it goes as follows. Here's the basic logic. The basic logic is when a keyboard project starts, the project runner, whether that's a group buy runner or a vendor or a hobbyist, doesn't really matter. They need to make a goal. And that goal is either to make money or to make a good product. Now, obviously, we're talking about intentions here, and intentions are an incredibly difficult thing to gauge. Throughout this video, we're going to talk about indicators of a passion project versus indicators of a cash grab. However, these are just indicators because the truth is in the runner's head. And unless you can get into their brain and, somehow understand their thoughts, we're never going to be 100% correct on any of this. But these are indicators. They don't apply all the time, but they should help you be able to gauge if a project leans towards cash grab or if a project leans to the side of passion project. Now, before we start, obvious things like we want to get right off the bat. Just because something is expensive, it does not mean it's a cash grab. Just because something is cheap, it doesn't mean it's a passion project. Okay? Keep that in mind. There's expensive, super nice keyboards out there that the runners put out at that price with the intention of making a really good product. And obviously the lines get blurred at some point, and there is a gray area, but my idea is as follows. Now, during the running of a group buy, a keyboard group buy, now we're going to talk about keyboard specifically because I don't have good knowledge about key sets or switches or any of that, but keyboard group buys I understand decently well. So the idea is, at some point during the group buy process, the designer will have to, or not the designer, but the group buy runner will have to decide to go one way or the other. There will be a moment at which he will have to put the product first, or he will have to put money first. Now, this doesn't always happen, obviously. However, this is something that differentiates the thought process of cash grab versus passion project. So, small example. There's some issues with a keyboard run. People have already paid, and you've got to make a choice as the group buy runner. Is choice number one to delay and fix all the issues, or to just get it out? Now, delaying and fixing all the issues, that's passion project. Just getting it out is on the other side. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a cash grab, but it's a potential indicator. I think the most important thing to consider is obviously the initial driving factor for the group buy runner before the project starts. Obviously, before a project starts, they need to decide: am I making this really cool product, and I want it to be this very particular way, and I want to put it out there for the community, or I want to make some money? And there's pretty big red flags when it comes to cash grabs in general. Now I'm gonna have to check my notes because this is unscripted, but I've got some obvious red flags of cash grabs. Obviously, it goes without saying that something could have all these red flags but still be a passion project. You can't know for sure. You have to use your better judgment. We all have to use our better judgment, especially in a hobby like this. So, obvious red flags of a cash grab: no prototype, but aiming to sell. So, we're not gonna name drop anybody on the cash grab category for obvious reasons. You'll know who you are. So, red flag number 1: no prototype, aiming to sell. So, what does this tell us? It tells us that the runner is not interested in putting money forward for the project, that the runner doesn't want to see how the product looks or feels or performs, which are the top 3 things in any keyboard. You've got your aesthetics, you've got your feel, and you've got your sound. And if you haven't made a prototype, at best you kind of know what the aesthetics are going to look like, but that's pretty much it. And then the second part of this is aiming to sell. So this is something like looking at an interest check for a keyboard where everything is finalized and the marketing material looks spectacular, and the price point doesn't matter. Could be cheap, could be expensive. However, there's no prototype, which is strange, especially considering there's a group buy date scheduled. So this runner aims to sell a particular keyboard, yet doesn't even have any interest in trying it. Now, like, in terms of many hobbies, and in terms of just the manufacturing process, in terms of just products in general, everyone prototypes. Apple prototypes, Google prototypes, I don't know, Xiaomi prototypes. Everyone prototypes. You have to prototype to make sure that your product is viable. Not having a prototype and aiming to sell is a big red flag. All right. Red flag number 2: foam or other obvious marketing features before even having a prototype. So this is, let's go back to that interest check where the marketing was well done, it had a bunch of nice pictures, and the guy is aiming to sell, or the girl is aiming to sell. And there's foam. There's sub-PCB foam. Okay, why is there sub-PCB foam? Foam is meant to, target a particular sound profile or fix an underlying sound problem. But how is there foam if you don't have a prototype yet? That makes no sense. Now, I'm not saying any IC you see with foam in it is instantly a cash grab, but it's a red flag. It's sticking in marketing features for the sake of sticking in marketing features, instead of using said features to do their job. That's pretty strange. This can apply to other marketing features. This can apply to, let's say, you look at an interest check, and it's for a nice top mount TKL, nice and simple, and then the group buy runner just decides, oh no, I'm gonna make it gasket mounted now. But why? Have you prototyped it? Have you tested it? Or are you just switching to gasket mount because that's what people want? At that point, you're not making a product that you thoroughly enjoy and trust. You're making a product that people will buy. That's a red flag. Again, potentially a red flag. We can never truly know unless we get into the brains of these group buy runners. All right, next up. Now, this one is a little iffy, and obviously these red flags and these indicators that we've come up with, we did on stream last night, and not all of these apply all the time, but Victory or other auction, in my opinion, for the mass majority of the run. So let's say I see or group buy for 30 units, and all of them are Victory. That doesn't seem like you're trying to get your product into the hands of people that want it, It seems like you want to get your product into the hands of people with money, which means you only care about the people in this hobby who are willing to pay that much more. That kind of alienates the majority of the hobby by default, meaning you don't care about the majority of people in the hobby. Now, if we're talking about a 200 unit run and you victory like 5 or 10 units, I think that's fine. As a vendor or as a group buy runner, you are allowed to make money. You are 100% allowed to make money as long as you're putting out a viable product. So a good example, an indicator that would tell us that this is not a red flag would be a 100, 200 unit run, and then you've got 5 to 10 that are victoried, just so people that really, really, really want it don't have to go and buy it on Mech Market for quadruple retail price, and instead can help out the vendor a little bit. That's totally fine, because you're allowing a small subset of that more rich community to be able to buy in, and it also helps you as a vendor, which is totally fine. However, when the entire run or a vast majority of the run is victory or some other type of auction, well, that just indicates one thing. It indicates you just want money. There is no other reason to victory. Besides, the people that really want it can get it, except no, the people that have a lot of money can get it. This is a video for another time, and we'll talk about my annoyances with the auction system in this hobby. But again, that's a potential indicator. And obviously we're talking about when it applies to a large majority of the run. And then last but not least, we've got stuff like no IC at all, direct to sales. Now, there's a big exception for established vendors and established runners. Good example of this, as it not being a cash grab, was, for example, the Singa KBD Jaguar. There was no real IC. It was a couple pictures posted on Instagram, but it went straight to group buy. But it came from a reputable vendor with a lot of knowledge and with the intention of making a good product. The same applies for Rama boards and Keycult boards that have no, proper IC on GeekHack and whatnot. Does it mean they're a cash grab? No, not at all. But if we're talking about first timers just coming into the hobby right away, and their intention is to sell, well, you have your answer right there. If you come straight in and your intention is to sell, then your goal is to make money. That puts it on the cash grab side, right? Oh, that's better. For those of you that don't know, we're chilling in my lovely living room, hanging out. Very hungover from yesterday's stream. All right, on the other side, we've got obvious indicators of a passion project. And honestly, I love passion projects. Passion projects make me feel like this. They make me feel so good. Now, we talked about how, vendor or hobbyist doesn't really matter. And there's a lot of big vendors that are obvious passion projects. We've got things like AI03 and, for example, his Andromeda, which is a $750 TKL. But that was a passion project. Simon, how can that be a passion project? It's so expensive. Rama's projects are passion projects. Keycult's projects are passion projects. Now, some of you are probably scratching your head and being like, but that doesn't make any sense. But it does. It's all about the underlying target of that particular vendor or that particular group buy. So here's some nice indicators of it being a passion project. We've got 1, multiple protos before IC or release. This is usually a huge indicator. It means that the group buy runner has invested their time, their effort, and their money to the improvement of the product before releasing a product just for people to see. Not to buy, but just at the IC stage. That's a big indicator of a passion project. It means they're trying to get it just right, the way that they want it. Which goes to our second point, which is I made this for me to enjoy. Or I made this to help or give something new to the community. That's an obvious indicator of a passion project. So when it's very clear somebody really loves something and they made it just for them to enjoy it, and then selling it was a second thought, passion project. Now, on the other end, you've got the huge red flag, and I cover group buys in IC, and I review the ICs and the group buys every Sunday on my Twitch stream, link somewhere over there. And sometimes what we'll see in an IC is, this is something I've always wanted to do, and I love this project, and I made it just for me. But they have no prototype. And they've already decided on a bunch of features. And they plan to go straight to sales. That's a big, big red flag. Saying it is one thing. Meaning it is another thing. So a huge red flag is somebody trying to say one of the things that are obvious indicators of a passion project, but having nothing to back it up. So it's just hollow words. So going out and saying, this is something I want to make for the community, for everyone to enjoy, doesn't mean shit if you haven't invested your time, effort, and potentially money into the project, and opened your ears to the response from the community. Next up, we've got open sourcing elements. This is the most obvious indicator. AI03 has open sourced a lot of projects. A lot of board runners will open source their plate designs and all of that, which is okay. But I'm talking about open sourcing entire projects. That is the biggest indicator of a passion project. It means I have put the work in and I want you guys to have this product, even though I make no money. Just for the sake of having it out there, for the betterment of the community. You see something like that where, somebody does a keyboard run and he's like, here you go, the files are public. That is the most obvious passion project. Like, we don't even have to discuss that. And then next up, we've got the willingness to lose money if needed for the project to succeed. It doesn't mean that they have to lose money, but as we said at the very beginning of this video, sometimes throughout a group buy process, there comes a line. And that line is, do I improve the product or do I aim to make money? And that decision needs to be made. It's entirely possible to improve the product without losing money. That's the thing. Like, we'll get into like the niche details after, but willingness to lose money. A lot of the big guys, like really, really big vendors that you've heard of, have had projects where they have lost money. I'm not going to name drop here, but a lot of money. And these are like reputable vendors that, should make a decent margin on their products. They have had runs where they've made no margin and in fact have lost tens of thousands of dollars. It means these people are very, very passionate about what they do. Now, it's obviously not necessary to lose a bunch of money, but being prepared in your mind for that potential is all that really matters. Like we said, it's all about what's in the group buy runner's head, which is why we can never be sure what anything truly is, only look at the indicators. All right, we've got more niche projects. This is not 100%, but more niche projects, so things that aren't going after the widest demographic, generally are passion projects. Obviously not always, but if you see an ortholinear board or a split ergo 32% ISO, or a standard 32% or something like that, small little case that's meant for a very, very niche purpose, if you look at it, it looks like a passion project. Why is that? Because it's not aiming to sell to as many people as possible. Obviously, there are exceptions to this. I could come out and make a 32% split ISO ortholinear meme keyboard, and aim to make money with it. Although, my target audience would be really, really small, but it is possible, which is why I say sometimes, or, generically, more niche projects, very, very specific, subsets of the community, those tend to be passion projects. And you'll notice that projects like those tend to be really, really cheap. Like if you look at, a 30% or a, split little thing, it'll be like a cheap little kit that you can buy that isn't the highest quality possible, but it's meant for people to be able to get their hands on the product, which is a huge indicator of a passion project. And then we've got private runs as an indicator for passion project. This one is sometimes, obviously, not all the time, but it's an indicator that, assuming you're following the rest of the rules, which is, there's a prototype, you've invested a little bit of money in, you actually care about getting the product out. If it's somebody's first time, I strongly recommend people do a private run, because that way you control who your buyers are. Like my first keyboard run was a private run. Singa KBD's first keyboard run was a private run. TGR's first keyboard run was a private run. That's generally how people get started in this hobby. But that is an indicator. That is an indicator that I don't want to go too wide. I don't want to spread myself too thin. I don't want to, go out and try to sell 200 units of this particular keyboard. No, I just want to get it into the hands of some people and then try and gauge their feedback. And then based off of that, maybe I'll do a public group buy. Now, obviously we said this is a sometimes thing. Not always. But it is a decent indicator of a passion project when you see there has been a private run of this before the public run, or you're being invited to the private run. Now, it's entirely possible that a group buy runner will use a private run to essentially fund their own prototypes, therefore not being willing to expend any of their money into the project, which is a little on the cash grabby side, but not necessarily, because all we're talking about is intention. So as long as the group buy runner has a particular intention and they just don't have money, I don't have money to buy 3 prototypes, although I really, really want to do this project, so I'm going to do a private run and allow people to buy in with me on my prototypes, and I, really hope they enjoy my project. Passion project. Versus, I really want to do this particular thing for me, but I don't want to spend any money, and it'd be nice if I could make some money, so, I'm going to do a private run so I can fund 2 or 3 units just for myself. Cash grabbing. So it's the same thing, but the intention changes everything. All right. We've got the very obvious one. Seller spends money before selling anything. That's something that we just talked about. It's entirely possible that they don't spend money because they don't have money to spend. However, it is a big indicator of a passion project when you see that the seller has invested into the project before even showing anyone the project. That means a lot. It's a lovely indicator. All right, we've got a couple more indicators of passion projects. One of them is great customer support with replacements and fixes. This is something that I'd like to credit KeyCult and Rama for, where you get a spectacular product. And sure, you're paying them to have a decent margin so they can pay their bills and run their company, which they're 100% allowed to do, as long as the product comes first, which in the case of our 2 examples, Rama and KeyCult, the product does come first. For KeyCult, I can pick up the phone or send an email and be like, hey, this particular thing, it has a little issue with it, and I know for a fact they're gonna fix it, or replace it, or do something to make the situation better. In addition to, sending me a great product in the first place, having that sort of support means a lot versus something more cash grabby where once the product is in the hands of the customers and the money is in the hands of the vendor or group buy runner, then it's over for them. Their only goal was to make money, not to support a product. And again, it's either about the product or it's about the money. So a big indicator of a passion project is obviously good support, after sales support. This doesn't necessarily mean that, there's lots of updates on the group buy process. That doesn't matter. I can run a big cash grab and update everyone daily. But this is about after support. This is about replacement units and fixes and willing to hear the customer out just so you know that your products that are out there in the wild are the best that they possibly can be, meaning you care about the product. That one is fairly simple. And then last one, we've got another obvious indicator of a passion project, and that is delaying in order to get a better quality product out. So delaying for the reason of getting a better product out is a big old indicator of a passion project. It means that they're not comfortable releasing it in its current state, and a lot of things need to be fixed before it goes out, and they're willing to delay it. They could have just sent it out with, subpar color or machining or quality control and made the same amount of money. However, willing to put a pause on the project in order to just make sure that the project is that much better is a great indicator of a passion project. Ah, that's good tea. All right. We've got some final notes, and these are just main points I want you guys to take away. Obviously, the major point is don't buy into hype. Don't buy into hype. Yeah, some good things are hyped, but also a lot of bad things are hyped. Don't buy into things specifically because they're hyped. Buy into things because they're good. Buy into things because you see the indicators that the group buy runner is doing this out of passion to make a good product instead of to make money. Now, second main takeaway is price point has nothing to do with a cash grab, and vendors does not equate to cash grab. And I'll put this into perspective. If Rama or Keycult wants to sell me a keyboard for $2,000, if they want to make that amount of margin, as long as their primary objective is to get out the best possible product and they care about the product, they are allowed to make whatever margin they want to make. Obviously, if they're going to price it at $2,000, I'm not going to buy it, and a lot of people won't. So there is a limit. But product comes first. Vendors and group buy runners are definitely allowed to make money as long as the product comes first. Obviously, this video isn't about, ooh, capitalism bad. Capitalism is totally fine. And vendors and group buy runners are more than welcome to make all the money that they can or want to make, as long as the product always comes first. And I think we got one more. Yeah. And then our disclaimer that we had at the beginning of the video. These indicators are not 100%. And judging a cash grab from a passion project is near impossible, as you would need to know the thoughts that are inside the runners' heads. You can never be 100% sure. A lot of actions by a group buy runner could go either way, because it's all about intention. It's all about intention. That's our main takeaway. Our main takeaway is look at the indicators and then use your own judgment in order to figure out whether or not, in your opinion, a particular project is a passion project or not. And that's it. That's the video. I'll see you guys on the next episode of Real Talk. Did I forget anything? I probably forgot a lot of shit. Yeah, I'm sorry guys, my videos are kind of shit. But I do what I can, you know? And Real Talk videos aren't really scripted anyways, so. Hey, listen, you get what you pay for. I can't wait for people to take this video way out of context and just be like, hey, oh yeah, Simon said these are indicators of a cash grab, therefore this project is the biggest cash grab ever. Meanwhile, the guy is sitting there working so hard just trying to get out a good product. Don't do that. Don't be assholes. You guys need to be able to make your own decisions, make your own judgments, and obviously understand the fact that you can't get into people's heads. I love Puds.